Hello and welcome to my new video. There is special news from the company Zendure. I already announced it to you in a short where I explained the collaboration between Zendure and United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization. The link to the short is, of course, as always, at the top of the video under the I. As I said, there is a brand new device from Zendure here. I also have a prototype here on my desk. An important note about this is a prototype. That means there could still be some changes to the final device in Germany. For example, there might be some lettering or visual design changes made. That means the final device might look a bit different from what you see here on the desk. This is the finished device, so we can examine it more closely. The new Zendure SolarFlow 800 Pro is the brand new device from Zendure. And here, Zendure has listened to you and has once again incorporated a lot of user experiences and user requests into this device. You actively commented under my last videos and wrote things you wished for. And now the manufacturer has implemented that in this system. I'll take it a bit easier and just show you a small list. Here you can already see the key new features compared to the Hyper 2000. I already introduced that one to you in another video. You can see we have significant improvements here. For example, the maximum power point tracking can now deliver 2400 watts. Important, we now have 4 MPPTs installed here because before in the Hyper 2000 there were only 2 MPPTs installed. That means we can now connect 4 individual modules here, just like with the previous model. However, each module now has its own maximum power point tracking, so no module interferes with any other module in any way. So you can align all the modules however you want. Each maximum power point tracking can handle up to 660 watts and delivers up to 600 watts. And so you can connect quite a bit of power here and have complete freedom in choosing the location for your modules. Another important advantage, which has now also been implemented in this device and has been requested by many of my viewers, can be found over here on the device. Let's just open it up. And here you can see an emergency backup socket. With this socket, you can now use your device completely off grid. That means the power grid has failed, everything is disconnected, and you still have the option to draw energy from your battery here. Furthermore, you can also connect another inverter through this socket. That means if you already have a regular balcony power plant inverter, you can simply plug it into this socket here. And this way, it can also feed the energy into the system and transfer it to the grid. However, I have to say, if you connect third-party inverters here, of course, they can't be controlled by the device. That means the power the inverter delivers is either stored in the batteries here, or if the batteries are full, it's fed directly into the grid one-to-one. That means we can't achieve zero feed-in here, because how would that even work? Zendure can't remotely control the other inverters. If you don't set an inverter here, of course, you'll have the zero feed-in function here again. That means, of course, you can also set the system so that no energy is fed into the grid. I think that's really good with this manufacturer. Furthermore, the manufacturer has also implemented a lot of new features here. One of the main features here is also the integrated artificial intelligence function. Once again, there was a strong focus on artificial intelligence, but this time it's built into the device. This way, the device can optimize power output, battery management, and energy consumption using artificial intelligence to such an extent that you achieve even greater savings with this system. And of course, this also works offline because the artificial intelligence is integrated here, but we can take another look at that in the app. Also important. Of course, we have a fire protection system built into the batteries here, which can naturally protect against corresponding cell fires. And so you can be sure when you use the accumulators from this manufacturer, and you also prevent fires accordingly. Also important to mention, this system, of course, operates on a 48-volt basis. This is far more efficient than other manufacturers' systems using 20, 24, 18, or 12 volts. The voltages are essentially closer to 230 volts. And here we have significantly higher efficiency than, for example, competing products that use lower voltage in their batteries. Another great feature is the battery, which now has a maximum capacity of 11.52 kilowatt hours. That means you can stack up to 5 modules under the device, giving you even greater battery performance. That appears to have been a strong request from my viewers. Many of you wanted at least 10 kilowatt hours of home storage, and now we've provided that too. Here you can expand the system up to 11.52 kilowatt hours of storage capacity. That's a whole lot. Then, of course, it's also worth mentioning the wide compatibility with smart plugs or smart meters. Zendure has launched its own smart meter on the market. Of course, this can be connected to the device here. Of course, you can also use the Shelly smart meter or your own plugins or other smart meters. I'll just show them to you. That way you'll know what the system is also compatible with. Important, the devices also communicate with the device through your own Wi-Fi, which of course results in excellent speed since nothing has to go through the cloud here. The devices communicate directly with the Zendure, and accordingly the power demand can be immediately passed on to the battery, to the inverter, and it can deliver the energy right away. It's also important to mention that, as required in Germany, the device only feeds a maximum of 800 watts into the grid, but it can also be expanded. That means if you have this device installed by a certified electrician or directly by Zendure, a higher capacity can be drawn from the inverter. But that would then require registration. Many of you usually take a different approach. I can simply mention that as well. Just buy several devices, place them together, and connect each to a different phase. That way you can also achieve a higher capacity, feeding capacity. But it's important, here in Germany, we're actually only allowed to feed in 800 watts per household. I just wanted to mention that again. And last but not least, of course, it should also be mentioned. With this, it's also possible to use dynamic electricity tariffs. Here's a small list or selection. This allows the system to access and extract dynamic electricity tariffs directly, and that way you can also charge the battery from the grid when electricity is especially cheap, and then use it in your home network when it's expensive. But that's also a nice additional feature. If you have a different provider, of course, you can also control it by time with the device. There are many more new features, but I don't want to drag the video out too long. Instead, I just want to start up the device here with you. Next, let's move on to commissioning and installation. Can we still call this an installation, or is it more like plug and play? Of course, it's not very difficult. It's kept very simple. We can either start the device here using the power button, or even easier, just plug it into the socket. Here's a little tip. We have this plug connection to our Zendure here. There's a seal here. Please make sure that this is properly in place and plug it into this side socket here. Now just plug it into the socket and the device should start immediately. The device starts up and is ready to use immediately. In theory, we could already connect our photovoltaic strings now. Here's an important tip. Do this in the evening or early morning, not in direct sunlight, because sometimes the photovoltaic panels are really exposed to a lot of sunlight and you could create an arc when plugging them in. Also important, I always get asked, how many panels can we connect per string? Here's an important note. Each string is designed for one panel. I know there are some nice do-it-yourself setups where you connect several panels in parallel, which really increases the output. These adapters are always used here, which are plugged in so that several devices can be connected together. However, there's a high risk of overcurrent, which can damage the system, but usually it's the plugs that get damaged. They usually melt when too much is connected here, or these adapters also tend to melt. And I strongly advise against that. You have 4 strings available here, which means you can connect enough panels here. I'm going to connect 2 405 watt panels here as a test. Basically, it's very simple. Each string is available individually here, which means each panel can be connected individually and can also be aligned individually. The advantage is, even if a single photovoltaic panel is damaged, it doesn't put a heavy load on the system here. Each module has its own maximum power point tracking, so one won't affect the others. The system is now ready to use. We can see here our connection indicator is blinking. That means we can now either pair this device with our smartphone via Bluetooth or connect it to the cloud via Wi-Fi. If you prefer not to use the cloud, you can connect directly to this device with Bluetooth. Of course, you can also set up the Wi-Fi connection later and connect to the cloud. We'll connect to the cloud right away now, that's faster. For this, just download your Zendure app. And to make it a bit easier for you, I'll just display the app over here. The Zendure app is currently empty with nothing installed. Now we just click on the plus button up here. Now we can search for devices nearby. I've now found the SolarFlow 800 Pro here. Click on it, and here we are given 2 options, Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. We'll just do the correct configuration via the cloud using Wi-Fi now. As I said, it's also possible via Bluetooth. You connect to your Wi-Fi network. Important, many of my viewers use multiple Wi-Fi networks. Make sure to use the same Wi-Fi network for all devices that work together with this device. For example, whether it's a smart plug or the smart meter, please make sure everything is on the same Wi-Fi network. This way, everything can communicate with each other over your own Wi-Fi using Zendure technology, which of course means that if the internet goes down, everything will still work. So we've entered the password and are now connecting to the Wi-Fi and the cloud. You saw how fast that was. Now we can assign a name here. We'll just keep it for now and have connected the device to our system. Now, of course, the Zendure app wants to create an energy system right away. That's a very interesting solution. That means you can connect individual devices here and combine them into one system. We'll actually do that right now. Let's just confirm it. And just like that, we've created an energy system. Then we also have this beautiful graphic that you can see here. The device is ready for operation and it starts working immediately. Here's an important note. When the device is started up for the first time, it may perform a kind of battery training. That means the battery will be completely discharged once and then fully recharged. And after this training has been completed, we can continue working. So next, of course, we can now connect more devices here. Let's just start with a smart plug. That's the simplest solution for an end user to connect more devices to the system intelligently. Here, for example, you can connect a washing machine, refrigerator, or whatever you like. When this device is running, the smart plug can measure the power consumption and send it to this device here. And accordingly, the feed-in can be increased and then adjusted up to 800 watts. That's the feed-in limit here. Alternatively, you can also connect the smart meter, of course. But I'll show that again in a separate video, exactly how it is connected. Important, the smart meter must be connected in a sub-distribution board, and a certified electrician should do this for you. I explained how to do this in a second video, which you can find by clicking the I above. I'll quickly set up the smart plugin with you now so we can add it here as well. For this, we plug the smart plugin into a socket. Important, larger appliances like washing machines should not be used with a power cube like this. I'm just doing this for demonstration purposes. Please do it properly at home and use proper sockets. And if you connect larger permanent appliances somewhere, maybe have an electrician check your sockets as well. I'll plug the smart plug in this way so we can see it better. We'll plug it in here now and the smart plug will start up. We can also reset the smart plug if necessary. That means just press this button and hold it down for a longer period. We can see the LED starting to blink now. Yes, now it's blinking. And now we can also add this plug. We can do that on different pages as well. You can do that in the device overview or on the home page. We're still here. So we click on the plus button here and click on add device or select device. If you know exactly which device you want to add, you can also select the device accordingly. Let's just click on it. For example, here we have supported devices. Let's just click on it. And here we have a smart plug. Yes, it's blinking. Next, and let's just connect to it. We see that the smart plug was found. If that's not the case for you, just restart the process or go back one step in the app. That can definitely happen sometimes. Here as well, we connect this smart plug to our Wi-Fi. We select the same Wi-Fi again, which we also use to connect our main device, of course. And click next. You can also name the plugin here, which is useful if you have several, like washing machine or refrigerator. No idea, whatever is connected to it. And we add that. Now we've added this device, but now I also want to add a smart meter with you. Here we can add different ones. For example, the Zendure's own smart meter or the Shelly Pro 3 EM. These are, of course, also compatible. I'll demonstrate this to you using the Zendure smart meter. Of course, we first need to have this installed in our sub-distribution, preferably as far forward as possible in the house installation, so that it can see as much of what we consume as possible. That way it can control the device most effectively. As I mentioned, I've explained this in a second video. Click the I above to find it. To make it a bit easier to show you how to set up the smart meter, I've installed it here in this demo box. The installation appears messy, but it's only for demonstration. Of course, you should have a certified electrician install it properly. I've connected a triple socket cube here as an outlet for now. That's not the best solution either. These cubes generally shouldn't be used because they can only handle a certain amount of wattage. Especially with larger power consumers, you should choose proper connection points here. But for our demonstration, this will work. So we've now installed the smart meter here. You can see the smart meter is installed. Down here, the transformer meters, that is the receivers, have also been installed. As I mentioned, you can see how this works in the video above under the eye. Everything is now included here. As you can see, the smart meter and system are already operating again. And on the smart meter, the Wi-Fi symbol is blinking. If it's not blinking yet, press the button up here for about 3 to 4 seconds, and that will put the smart meter into connection mode. The Zendure SolarFlow is now connected behind the smart meter. This way, the smart meter can also monitor what the Zendure feeds into or draws from the grid. To connect the smart meter, we proceed in a similar way as I just showed with the smart socket. We're back in the main overview. Now I'll select the energy storage system we created. Click on the plus sign up here and go to Add Device. Let's try it now by adding a device. This should work too. The smart meter is recognized instantly and we select it, connecting via Wi-Fi. Accessing it by Bluetooth isn't necessary right now. We want to integrate it into the cloud, but it can also be accessed via Bluetooth and would then only work on your own network. But we'll do it through the cloud. We click on cloud, connect it again to our Wi-Fi, to the same Wi-Fi where our main system is also connected, of course. So they can still communicate with each other during an internet outage. That worked here too. You can also assign a name to this meter. I'll just keep the original name for now. And of course, we also add the system to our energy storage system. As you can see, the graphic now looks like this. Up here we see our photovoltaic modules. If we click on them, we can see which photovoltaic modules are generating how much energy. We see string 1, it's very cloudy, it has 63 watts, string 3 has 67 watts. And string 2 and string 4 are not in use for me at the moment, but of course you can also use them if you want. Then down here we see our energy storage, the SolarFlow 800 Pro. We see the total power going into the grid, currently 73 watts, because we haven't set anything up here yet. Normally the default setting is 200 watts. Then we see our little smart meter displayed here, and we can see how much energy is being lost to the grid. This whole display isn't completely accurate yet, since we haven't set anything up here. So how can we proceed now? First, we need to select the mode. Here we choose the mode for our system. We just click here. And here you can see the different modes that are available. We can see that a lot has changed here. Many new modes have been added. First of all, of course, the premium artificial intelligence mode, the Zen artificial intelligence, has been added. We can now select and use these here. The artificial intelligence can, of course, support you very well, since it basically stores your consumption and your habits here. And thus, charging and discharging the battery can, of course, be used in the best possible way. Anyone who wants to use this selects it and basically saves it right away. And the artificial intelligence is already working. The advantage, once the artificial intelligence has worked for a certain amount of time, it naturally learns how you handle the system here. We just click here on the overview, and here you get the corresponding forecasts and overviews. A lot of useful information that can really help you here so you can optimize your electricity consumption even better. As the next step, we can of course choose the automatic mode. That would probably be the mode that most of my viewers here would consider. That's the plug and play thing. Just click on it here. The devices are automatically detected and included, and we save that. And the device works together with the available plugins and this smart meter and applies the optimal settings for you here. Then we'll move on to further settings. Those would be the expert settings. Those of you who want to dive a bit deeper into this can feel free to use them as well. Here we can select the smart meter mode. Here, the system mainly works together with the smart meter and tracks what the smart meter measures accordingly, and it adjusts the output to your home network accordingly. Then we have the mode for the smart plug, which I also showed you. You can integrate and use it here as well. And then there's the base load mode, which is also interesting for all those who don't use a smart meter or a smart plug. They simply use the base load mode and set a base load here. Of course, we can do that according to a schedule. That means you can set a schedule here. At the moment, I've already created a schedule here earlier. As a test, when the camera was off, it used 74 watts, as you saw earlier on the screen. Here you can set your base load and easily adjust it with a time schedule. For example, say only 100 watts are used at night. Then choose the time you get up. I don't know, let's just say 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, or most people nowadays get up a bit later, but let's just say 5 o'clock. Not much is running during this period. Then we'll set a base load of around 100 watts, and then we can create another schedule. When you wake up, you use a lot of electricity, and then you use more, I guess, from 5 o'clock or from 8 o'clock until, I don't know, in my case, it would be 6 o'clock. Electricity use rises a bit since devices like the coffee machine are on. Here we can set it to around 400 or 430 watts and so on. That's how you can set everything manually, and it works very well. We'll save that now, and then the system will follow this plan. When nothing is set, the system always outputs 200 watts. Important note, this device also supports zero feed-in, which I can demonstrate later. That's where we decide if the device feeds excess electricity into the grid, which would be very interesting here. Then we can really only feed in this load. Finally, we have the electricity tariff mode, which I showed you earlier. Zendure works with many electricity providers and can pull the rates from them. That means you can use dynamic electricity tariffs here. If you don't have these, you can, of course, also use the time modes. Let's just turn it on and select it. Here we can select the tariff. Here we can enter our electricity price first, or we select the dynamic electricity tariff and choose it here. Select the source for this tariff and thus, of course, use it as well. That means you can fully charge the storage when, in other words, when electricity is cheap, and when it's very expensive, you can draw from it. Of course, we also have options since we have a backup socket here to work with this one as well. This device is often used as a system backup. That's less relevant for Germany. But there are countries we have to expect daily planned power outages here with power shut off at 2 p.m. for 1 or 2 hours. You can set the system to fully charge itself just before needed. And then during the power outage, you have your backup outlet here and can use it for the most important devices, whatever you need. Keep the telephone system or the television running. That's also a very nice additional feature. Let's go back and switch to our smart meter mode. We can now see the electricity meter here that it's included. Down here, we also have 2 points. Start alternating current charging. That's also a very nice feature. Imagine your electricity provider rings your doorbell and says, there's construction outside. Power will be turned off today at 3 o'clock. Then you can immediately turn on alternating current charging here and also set a time period during which the alternating current charging should run. Then the device will now charge from the corresponding outlet, and you will have power when the power outage actually happens. For alternating current charging, we also need to pre-configure the device with the charging power it uses. It should be mentioned here, the device can be fast charged with up to 2,400 watts, which is incredibly powerful. If the device is not connected to a proper installation like this one here, I wouldn't set it that high. I would rather set it to 600 or 800 watts. If you have a proper certified socket here that has maybe even been checked by an electrician, then of course you can set it to 2,400 watts accordingly. Just as a side note, you can see here that this is possible. I explained it to you, now we're going to retract it again. And once we've set up the smart meter, let's quickly go back in here, and now everything should be there. Yes, exactly. Now we can see a matching curve up here. We haven't connected anything, so it shows 0 watts up there. If a device is connected here now, it will show up. And it always tries to follow this matching curve so that you can compensate for this power consumption. What else is important to explain? Oh, right, 0 feed-in. I want to show you that quickly as well. Let's see where it is here. We are now here in our energy storage system. Let's select that and choose the option for power distribution strategy. Here we scroll all the way down. Here we first see, of course, the usage in the house. Second, the battery storage is charged. And third, power is fed into the grid. We can prohibit that for true 0 feed-in by selecting the bottom option. And here we can export excess energy, prohibit it, or set it up. This ensures true 0 feed-in. Clicking Allow lets excess energy feed into the grid. When the battery is full and there are no local consumers, any extra energy goes to the grid, up to 800 watts. Choose the setting you want to have here. Then another very important point is the battery load and charging settings. We definitely need to go over this again. Let's just go over it. Here, for example, we see these basic load settings that I just set up for the house. These are valid here as long as we have them turned on. Of course, we can also deactivate them here and set up new schedules. Then let's move on to the battery settings. Let's click on that as well. These settings are very important, and I personally like using them. Here we can define a deep discharge limit and a maximum charging limit. In winter, I usually set the deep discharge limit very high, so that as much energy as possible always remains in the storage, and I let it charge to 100% so we can take along the maximum amount of energy. In winter, yields are poor. In summer, I adjust settings. Deep discharge limit to 10% and max charge to 80%. The advantage, this way the battery isn't stressed as much and it's usually enough to get through the night. But we protect the cycles accordingly and thus significantly increase the battery's lifespan, just so you've seen that too. And then we come back to the point I mentioned earlier about the connection situation. This is listed here under the security settings, just selected here. Under this section, you now see two items: the alternating current discharge power and the maximum safe alternating current charging power. You can adjust both of these here. The alternating current discharge power is limited to 800 watts here. In Germany, we use 800 watts, so we'll keep it at that. Another important point, if this device is connected by a certified electrician who is also authorized by Zendure, they can also upgrade the system a bit. And you can also feed more power into the grid. Important. In that case, however, the whole thing would have to be registered and the electrician would have to do that for you. That's why the discharge power is limited to 800 watts. Now let's move on to the maximum safe alternating current charging power. That's the point. With this, you can charge the battery from the grid. Be careful here. What can your electrical system handle? In my experience, it doesn't offer much. I wouldn't go over 1000 watts continuously, but you can go higher if you want. Click this to increase charging power up to 2400 watts. That means we can charge the device extremely fast. But please only do this if you have a proper power connection, a properly fused socket, not a power strip. This also lets us charge the device quickly. If you're not sure what you have here, I would recommend setting it to maybe 800 watts, 600 watts, or something similar. Preset it so that nothing can get damaged or overheated here while the device is being charged. So, and with that, the video has gotten pretty long again. I could tell you a lot more about the system here. If you still have questions about the system, feel free to ask in the comments below. Maybe this will lead to another interesting video. Also important, all the devices used here will of course be linked below in the video description. That means if you want to know where to get these devices, check the video description below. There I'll link you to the sources and any available discount codes. Once again, a big thank you to the manufacturer Zendure for providing these systems, so I was able to make these videos for you. If you enjoyed or found my video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. Interested in seeing more of my videos? No problem, just subscribe to my channel here because subscribing on YouTube is of course free. I'll say goodbye, see you next time. Yours, Mark, on YouTube.